This is a mescaline trip report by Gurudas, posted to Erowid.org on December 8, 2020. I was born in the middle of World War I in January of 1944. Even now I can see two moments from my earliest years as clearly as if they were yesterday. The first is the loss of a tiny toy screwdriver. I was 2 years old, sitting on the edge of a flagpole in Passaic, my bottom lifted off the ground, reaching for the little metal piece. It slipped from my hand and fell into a hole in the pole. I can still picture my 2-year-old body, the bright sky, the sound of distant sirens. The second memory is the day the atomic bomb was dropped on Japan. I was too young to understand the news, but I remember the flash of a wall flush tank that seemed to light up the whole neighborhood. Those two images have stayed with me for a lifetime. When I was 8, I had a dream of oneness. In the dream, I entered a classroom the next morning and saw my classmates, Jimmy B., Richie H., and the others, not as separate people, but as extensions of myself, each wearing a different set of body clothes. I felt a deep sense of thatness, a love that embraced everything. It was a feeling of unity that later faded as I fell back into ordinary consciousness. At 12, I woke from a dream and looked out the window. My field of vision was filled with an intense, uniform light. I became frightened, hid under the covers, and imagined myself turning into light and slipping away. That night I felt both terrified and fascinated by the idea that I could become something other than flesh. Throughout my childhood, I was often lonely, except when I was absorbed in technical, chemical, or mathematical work. In those moments, I felt a rare sense of connection. I was also very athletic, and my hormones were strong, but my family imposed strict Catholic discipline. Every night, I prayed to a picture of Jesus in the garden, his clasped hands and calm face etched into my mind. Later, I obtained a picture of the Sacred Heart of Jesus and used it as a focus for my mind, gazing at it to make my thoughts one-pointed while opening my heart. After my first marriage ended, I experienced a vision of a large section of time and distance all at once. I saw events that would happen in the future and felt a certainty that everything would be okay. That vision pushed me toward meditation, natural healing, and yoga. I became a yoga instructor and a disciple of Sri Swami S. My initiation name was Gurudas, which means servant of God, the teacher within. I followed the teachings of Richard Alpert, later known as Ram Dass, for many years. One day I was leaving my apartment to go to the laboratory when a slim, bearded graduate student from the medical department stepped out of his door at the same time. He greeted me as if we had known each other forever. He held a copy of the Journal of Psychiatry and pointed to an article by Harvard professors Timothy Leary, Richard Alpert, and Ralph Metzner. The article described the sacramental use of entheogenic mushrooms called tioninacatl by the Aztecs, a word that means the flesh of God. The authors wrote that the mushrooms allowed the participants to see God. I trusted my professors completely. They were logical chemists, engineers, a Manhattan Project physicist, and a Marine officer who had taught me mechanistic chemistry. When they said something, I accepted it as truth without question. I did not think much more about that article at the time. I was a family man with a young wife, drinking beer, attending school, and working on my master's thesis. I was exempt from the Vietnam draft that was taking the lives of men my age. My wife and the beer encouraged me to finish my thesis and get a job so that I could buy stuff. I had a modest apartment, a car, and a sense of stability. One afternoon, I injured my knee playing softball. I ended up in a cast, drinking beer, and watching a man on television who was panicking about something while hiding in a closet. My wife, Kathy, entered the room and announced that she was leaving me. That night, I drank until I could not feel anything, talking to my cat Ravi and begging the cat to bring Kathy back. I was in denial, trying to wash away the pain, but the denial did not work. I felt depressed, shaky in the mornings, and as if my heart had been ripped out. I could not bear the loneliness any longer, so I told a coworker, a family man who was about my father's age, about my situation. He listened and cared. That conversation gave me a small relief. I realized that the inner state determines experience, but it did not bring Kathy back. Later, a friend from my undergraduate days gave me some LSD. He seemed nervous, saying he was afraid to drive. I lay on my bed, took half of the dose, and felt nothing. I took the rest. Fear rose inside me, a terror that I might die. I walked across the courtyard to my friend's apartment, told him what had happened, and saw his smiling face, his laughter, and his wife's uneasy whisper. They seemed like puppets, lifeless. I felt miserable. My neighbor tucked me into his bed. His wife brought me a drink of rye on ice. I relaxed, feeling loved, but the alcohol was pulling me away from any expanded understanding. I left, thanked them, and told them I was okay. They felt sorry for me because of my wife's departure, but I did not care as much any longer. The next day at work, I was still haunted by thoughts of my wife leaving. My friend John suggested we ride our bikes, have a few drinks, and shoot pool for lunch. He took me to an empty lab where his friend had a vial of shining crystals. He sniffed them, then offered me a rolled dollar bill that contained the crystals. It was amphetamine. I thought, my life is over without my wife, and I snorted it. The stimulant lifted my mood. I felt young and free again, as if depression had vanished. I made new friends, attracted an attractive woman, excelled at work, and earned more cash. A spoon was always in my pocket, a reminder of the little spoonful of love that seemed to satisfy my soul. I listened to the moody blues, saw black lights, and watched girls dancing. My mind drifted back to the bearded graduate student in my apartment. Everything began to fit together. I begged my friend Stanley to let me see God. I told him that 5 pink tabs of mescaline would guarantee the experience. I ignored the fact that I had worked that week. I loved chemistry and its link to the larger picture. It was September 1969. A week later, friends gathered in my apartment. I took out the 500 pink mescaline tablets and the book, The Psychedelic Experience. I told my friends not to eat anything, that my mind was 100% focused on following the manual written by the Harvard professors who claimed to see God. I had no desire for anything else. They ate greasy chicken while I read. The book described the divine body of truth, the incomprehensible boundless light, radiating for countless billions of years, the final end, the state above all, the void as life itself. As I read, my friends began to feel sick. Their stomachs churned and they ran to the bathroom to vomit. My body began to shake. I felt as if I might explode into a million atoms, so I calmly lay down on the floor. I closed my eyes and saw the entire human race as an archetypal thought in a mind, with me at the center, linked to everyone by a thread of consciousness moving at the speed of love. The thread expanded, and I felt myself rise upward, beyond my stomach, beyond my body, into a vast, infinite field of light. In that instant, I saw an infinite body of total life, exactly as the book described. All the puzzle pieces of my life fit together. I felt an intense love that made words seem tiny in comparison, yet full of truth, compassion, and unity. I sensed a balance that stretched across all of eternity, all time at one moment. I understood that Christ's statement about dying for our sins meant that the loss of ego is a loss for all, because there is only one ego, one consciousness, shared by everyone. The vision continued. I saw a giant eye atop a pyramid, like the one on the back of a dollar bill, but magnified to billions of dimensions. I realized that our ancestors had known this truth and had drawn it without the river of forgetfulness. I saw a shining tower of love, embraced by a motherly space, alive and simple, a thought form given reality by the thread of consciousness that creates the illusion of linear time. The highest causal planes of pure thought, the Einsteinian love trapezoid, the words all seemed true. I felt that there is no real death. When a thought dies, the matter dies with it. Everything repeats in cycles like reflections in a set of mirrors, both astral and physical. I opened my eyes. My body sat up. My watch showed that only 3 to 4 hours had passed, yet I felt as if I had lived an eternity inside my own consciousness. I saw my friends. They were me, and I was them. Jenny looked at me, and a flood of information passed between us. Richie was excited, reaching out to grab us with joy. I kept the balance, feeling compassion for the whole human race. We walked outside together, under exploding stars, feeling freedom. I walked behind, feeling the compassion and understanding that bound us all. I knew how the doorway to oneness opened, and at that moment we were one in the light of Christ. Then the ego began to return. My watch spun backwards faster, a wave of solidity pulling me back into the physical world. The picture I saw was a reflection of the butterfly beating inside my heart, a reminder of the love we share. I kept practicing presence, remembering the bliss, the love, the knowledge that I had felt. 8 hours later, I was back to my ordinary self, feeling the drag of daily life. I felt less fear of death, but I still longed for the state of non-attachment that the chemical shift could not provide. I realized I needed tools that my will could use internally to turn emotion into devotion to the highest self. My wife eventually returned. She had experienced God on a mushroom called Psychedelic Experience. We had 2 beautiful children who now have families of their own. I have not had a drink of alcohol, beer, or any chemicals for 31 years. I practice meditation, Raja Yoga, pranayama, and mantra. My new wife, who is caring and loving, shares the same thread of conscious thought, and we are awake together. She passed away 2 years ago. I continue to contemplate divine things, finding serenity and serendipity. I feel that I am a magnet for money, that peace is my birthright. I do not think I was ever truly born, nor do I have parents. I am the soul, the Atman, the divine self separate from the body. May the entire universe be filled with peace, joy, love, and light. May all beings who suffer know peace and be free from suffering. Now my heart beats in rhythm with the earth, and the light of the universe shapes us for all time. This is the end of my report.